at this point, we've got our hole cut in here, or a mask, or a mat, or alpha channel, whatever you want to call it. I'm going to go down here and I'm going to close up these properties, so I don't want to accidentally mess around with any of that stuff. I'm going to go and select my project panel, and what I want to do now is I want to go and get this news promo movie file. And this news promo movie file is a file that I'm going to use now to basically, you know, fill that hole. And so what I'm going to do is take it, I'm going to put it behind or underneath my Office Mask movie layer. And you can see, oh yeah, it's peering through there. Now, obviously it's not lined up properly yet, and that's okay. So what we're going to do now is we're going to change our magnification and fit it back up to whatever, 100%, 200%. For me, it's 200%. It could be a different percentage for you. It really doesn't matter. And now that I've got that news promo layer selected, I'm going to grab that selection tool, and I'm basically going to try to move that now to fit that hole. Now you can see it's, there's some problems with it simply because there's, the dimensions aren't exactly going to fit that hole. So that's why, I've got some other tricks up my sleeve now to make that work. So I'm going to select that news promo, and I'm going to hit P, and you can see there's two dimensions that normally are the 2D, right? The height and the width. But what I want to do is I want to kind of work in the 3D world. And again, I'm not really working in 3D. I'm actually using what we'll call fake 3D, because I'm going to manipulate it like it's in 3D space, but it isn't really a 3D element. There's no depth to this movie layer. It only has height and width, but I can still move it around in 3D space. So in order to do that, I'm going to turn on this switch. This looks like a cube. If you put your mouse over it, say, oh yeah, 3D, yeah. So what I can do now is do some fake 3D. I'm going to click that, and what happens is it automatically starts giving me some properties. Now it doesn't give me all the properties, so sometimes what I do is I close it back up again, and then I click on the layer and hit P, and make sure that my 3D layer is turned on. And then what I do is I actually even sometimes go to the transform instead of hitting P, so I can see all the properties. So you can see like 3D is on everything except for obviously opacity, because it doesn't make any sense. And then I've actually got this X, Y, and Z rotation that are also available for me to play with. So what I can do now is if you notice inside here, you can see there's actually a green, a red, and then there's a blue like box here. And if I put my mouse over, that's the Z depth. And these are basically all these things here that are all represented. Now there's rotation, which is how you kind of can rotate the element. So what we're going to do now is we're going to play around first off with the position, which is now in 3D. And what we can do now is we can kind of move it around in 3D space. And then when we go to the Z depth, I should say, you can see you can actually move it forward or backward. Now you're not like scaling. It's not the same thing, because what you're actually doing is you're moving the element away from you in 3D space. So now I can start kind of manipulating this stuff to get, the alignment that's going to work best for me. And I'll play around with that until I pretty much got it to where I think it's going to work. But of course, there's some other issues going on here, and that has to do with what's called parallax. The camera is set up over this young lady's shoulder, and depending on the angle, when you get like straight edges, and depending on the orientation of those straight edges, you get what's called parallax, where like straight lines seem to move away from you and they actually seem to get smaller. So you notice this kind of doesn't really sit level in there. So what we're going to do is we're going to play with that in 3D space with the Y rotation and the Z rotation. So we'll go to the Y rotation. Now the first number is the amount of rotations. We're not going to play with that. We're going to go to the second number, which is degree of rotations. And what we're going to do is we're going to start rotating it in Y space. And what we're going to do is we're actually going to do a negative rotation on it to about -10. And again, you can just type in there, just hit negative and -10 and just click off. And you can see how it rotated a little bit. And then we're going to go to the Z rotation. And again, we're going to rotate that. And again, if you go to the left, it's minus, right? And we'll rotate a little bit to kind of get it to line up with that parallax. -2 should do it for the most part. So now you can see how that better fits into that that hole, which is, you know, the whole point of, you know, trying to kind of perfect this thing so that it looks like it's supposed to be there. And the better the job we do, the more the audience is fooled into believing that, yeah, that actually should be there. All right, so we can close up these properties now. And we can go file save as, because again, we've done some major work to this. And what we'll do now is we'll update that version number and we'll hit save. And then you can go ahead and hit your space bar and have a look at what you got. So there you go.